classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
24 minutes to 9 o'clock continues with Kenya's biggest conversation. Welcome to our audience on KTN News as well at this hour. Joined by Dr. Sam Kobia, the chairman of the National Cohesion and Integration Commission. And looking towards elections 2022, elections bila noma, of course, has been the message. But even as we're looking at these different elements, Dr. Kobia, it must be a very difficult task that you have before you. You know, as CT was alluding to, getting them to sign this. How do you sign this and then keep your word? How do you say you will do something bila noma? And how do you as a commission ensure that they will actually do what they said they will do? And in the event that they do not, I mean, we've heard the words toothless being thrown at the NCIC over and over again. What then do you do?
Well, you know, the political culture of Kenya is one that integrity is not given the significance that it should, and that is why you will see that people can sign, say, a charter like that, a pledge, a peace agreement, and they go and do the opposite. It's like when people sign, you know, so in the Bible, I would say not, the truth, nothing but the truth. But after that, they go on to say exactly, to do exactly the opposite. Now, what we are planning to do in this case, we are going to publish this, the charter that was signed. And we are going to translate it also in Kiswahili, and we will see whether it's necessary to translate it into any other languages. Then we will make it available to the people and to even institutions. What I would like to see is a collective responsibility in holding our leaders to account. Now, there is a clause in our constitution that is not very often remembered. That is, people have the right to recall elected leaders, members of parliament, members of the county assembly. This really, I would like to see this, and we are going to do it as NCIC. What we are going to do is we are going to come up with the criteria, including what these people have sworn, including what they are sworn even in parliament and in other places, and then say, because these are your employees, then you should appraise them along the way. We are going to recommend quarterly appraisal, performance appraisal of our members of parliament, of all elected officials. And then we will provide and train people that in town halls, every quarter, you then make people, that we elected to come and tell you what they have done. And also advocate for recalling. When you do this, then these people, you keep them on their toes all the time. If you do that, I see there will begin to have some, it will begin to have some effect. And this is the kind of the process of accountability that I have in mind. Because if you sign and then they just go and until next elections, then really it makes it it's meaningless. So this is what we are planning to do. And to really translate the so-called civic education, very often we have been doing, civic education, vote education, etc. I would like to see this taken seriously because as NCIC, when it comes to integration, when it comes to making sure that there is equal access to resources and information, etc., then we will be also empowering the voter. Or Kenyans in general, not only just the voter, even the younger people, so that they know what it means to entrust an individual to represent you in an assembly. So this is what we have in mind of doing.
Actually, it's interesting you should say that, because, see, if people get to understand that they are the employers of what we refer to, this group of people we refer to as our political leaders, and that we have not just the right but the ability to recall them and tell them, we do not like what you're doing, we would like to replace you, so we are giving you 3 months notice, please go home as we think of bringing somebody else. Usually the kink in this process is how to. So do I hear you to be saying that part of the training that you're hoping to work on is to educate people on the processes that one needs to be able to recall the leaders?
Exactly. That is what I have in mind. It hasn't been done before, but I would like to see it done.
Actually, I as you were speaking, why I'm asking, I cannot think of a more appropriate way of dealing with these issues for this simple reason. When you're talking about peace initiative, we're talking about elections bila norma. If people do not get the services that, say, their members of parliament have been given money to provide, this person is fermenting unrest. If a governor does the same thing, if people at the national level do the same thing, that's what they're doing. They are the ones who are bringing about a situation that will bring about unrest and which could now catapult into something greater. So the only way you ensure that they are held accountable and they do what they're supposed to do is this threat has to hang over their heads. They need to know that the people know and they know what to do, and that in the event of you are not fulfilling the mandate which you told the people you're going to fulfill, they will recall you.
Absolutely. That is exactly what I have in mind. And that is where I would see that we'll then be looking at civic education from a new perspective altogether. And once people actually know that indeed they have this this power, then it means that they should be educated on how to exercise that power. And then you ask the question about the consequences. You know, I see 3 pillars of consequences here. And that is why we came up with the wall of shame, where we will have now what I call political consequences, and this is what we have been talking about, holding political leaders to account, and not only that, but seeing that it is actually done by, you know, even recalling them, by evaluating their work regularly. And that's why I'm coming up with a proposal of quarterly assessment of what your member of parliament has done. And that there is a space that is created that will make people, including, you know, the voters and those that you saw and sought the election to represent, the intellectuals in that community, the faith leaders, the young people, so that you know, we really see that now people have that power. Now that is the political consequence. Then there should be criminal consequence. Now when it comes to hate speech, because hate speech is actually in our constitution, and the freedom of expression that you know, always people talk about, and that is why we are asked. We have the full freedom of expression. Yes. What are you talking about, NCIC? Now, you read as Article 33 of the Constitution, that freedom is not absolute. No.
It doesn't mean that you can then do whatever you want.
Exactly. Hate speech is against it. Propaganda for war. I mean, you cannot go to Uhuru Park every day and advocate for war and say you have freedom of expression and you get away with it. You can't. So there are limitations. And this, one of the limitations, is hate speech.
Okay.
So when that happens, then one that's what, as I said, we are now working with others to really make sure that this person is followed all through to court. So there is that criminal consequence. And the final one is social consequence. You know, if you are declared a pariah in a community, you will, you know, when we put people on list on the list of shame, if particularly they are professionals, their fraternity will get to know their families, their communities, their church, you know. So this is a social consequence.
Yeah.
Who wants it to be called a leader and still be seen as a pariah here?
Sure.
So this is and really we need to. That's why I'm emphasizing decency here. You know, because unless this becomes part of our culture, then it becomes sometimes difficult, and even for some people to say, what's the fuss?
Yeah.
Because again, it is actually sometimes the people who cheer up the leaders
to go
and
ahead
even encourage them.
or
go
ask
ahead,
for drama.
Yes.
Well, okay, and so the NCIC also, you know, a couple of months ago did establish certain parts around the country that were hotspots that needed to be watched pre-election, during and post-election, right? Now,
Yes.
from one of those areas, again, a report today that elders from this area have started to have condemned what they've seen as the, you know, should I say resurgence or the some leaflets with hateful messages having come out in their communities. They've gone ahead to condemn this, which, as we've seen, usually is a catalyst towards conflict. Usually you will see that conflict started, there were some of these hate messages going around. They've come out and condemned this. Is the NCIC aware of this that has come out? Because we are talking specifically about Uasin Gishu County. They've condemned the circulation of hate leaflets in various parts of the county ahead of the election. Are you aware of this? And then what would be done about this, even with the multi-agency that you speak about, the police, the DCI, etc., etc.?
Yes, indeed, we are aware of this. And when we came up with hotspots, it was a result of a study, actually a scientific study. And, you know, we were attacked by some people saying that, you know, what we are trying to do could very easily, you know, raise the anxiety level of Kenyans ahead of elections. Why did you do this? And, you know, you are targeting us, etc. Now, but this was a scientific study. We came up with the hotspots, we published them, and in fact, our report is now being used by even those who were attacking us on this, because they have realized actually this is true. And therefore, in some of those areas, we have seen that the level of criminality has gone down. That study was done between January and April of this year. If, as we tried to now assess where we are by the end of June, some of those which were of high risk, like Nakuru, now it could be perhaps medium risk, and we want it to go to low risk. Now, these leaflets that have been going out in the Uasin Gishu, this is very ominous, really, because this is how it starts. And that is why we have condemned it, and we are very encouraged by what the community leaders themselves have done. And I wanted to share that, yes, those people we work with include the National Council of Elders, and the one of the College in Elders is one of the very active ones. And some of those who are involved in condemning this are members of the Council of Elders.